So who is a thriving immigrant? A thriving immigrant is someone who has survived the survivor phase, has discovered his passion, his purpose, and is ready to even live an impactful life. He's no longer reactive. He's now being proactive. He has discovered that it's a blessing to bless others.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of UnmutedMoments. I'm your host, Heath, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Paul Adeyeye to the show. He has his own podcast called the Thriving Immigrant Podcast. So he's an award-winning author, a certified insurance and investment professional with a passion for empowering immigrants through financial education. We'll talk about his journey in Canada as an immigrant from Nigeria and what he's learned on how to thrive as an immigrant. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you. As I mentioned, you emigrated from Nigeria to Canada. Start from your roots. Growing up in Nigeria, how was your upbringing and how did that shape your voice and your mindset about success and what you thought you might become when you grew up?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I was raised in a modest family, a Christian family. My mom is a teacher. She taught till she retired. My dad was a telecom engineer, and we were just modest. In Nigeria, it's one thing that I think I learned early, the working hard. So hard work really is like one of the recipe to success. And Nigeria is a very competitive place. Now, we go through so many challenges, but my parents, they gave me education, no cost. They tried their best to give me education, and they also gave me good morals, which really helped me. But when you ask that success, mindset and all that, I'm not going to say that I had it figured out from my childhood, but I just knew that if I could go to school, study hard, and work hard, get what I want. So many things happened growing up. I remember when my dad lost his job, and it was a very difficult time. And what made it very difficult was the length, because it was a long period. So not like it happened for a few months and he got back on his feet. It was a very long time. But I learned so many lessons. And one of the lessons that I learned was that as a family, there is so much power in combined income. So much power in combined income. Whether you want to build wealth or you want to live a good life, makes it easier when both people are making money. So my mom was a teacher, but we survived on that meager salary for a very long time. It was tough, but I look back now and I'm grateful that she had that job. As insignificant as a teaching role could be, but that was the only source of income that helped us to navigate that period.
How old were
And
you? How old were you during this time?
Yeah, I was 9.
Okay.
I was 9. That was actually the year where I was going into high school. We call it secondary school. I was 9. I had 2 younger ones. And it was a time where we needed all the money. And for someone who you were living, let me say, we were a little bit comfortable. But at that point when it happened, things just changed. So I knew I needed to work hard, study hard. And I told myself that I would ensure that when I grow up, I will raise a family where my wife will also make income.
So like dual household income family. That was the goal?
Yeah, that was the goal. And I don't believe that one person can make all the income for the family. And I feel like really, and even for me in this country, I've seen there were times that I've lost my role. So it has happened.
Not just theoretical. It happened in real life.
In real life. So then the second lesson for me growing up, the same story, but the second lesson is always be proactive. Always be proactive. Do not be so comfortable. And what I mean is think about the future, watch the trend, make plans, and always upskill. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is, so my dad had a very comfortable role. Then telecom was only managed by the government. But what I realized was he couldn't function anywhere else. So he was a specialist. There's nothing wrong being a specialist, but sometimes you just need to have more skills to prepare yourself for change that can happen.
Was he able to, before you immigrated, did he eventually get another job, a different type of job, or do a different type of business or trade?
Yeah, so he did different types of businesses, tried different things. He was hardworking, he was energetic, but things did not really work out well. But you tried a lot of things. But here we are. We all went to school, family of four, family of six, four children. And my younger sister is a medical doctor.
Congrats.
My younger brother is an engineer. My other sister is an English teacher, doing okay.
Like every parent's dream, because you guys are all
Yeah.
doing great. And so what inspired you to want to immigrate? At what point did you make that decision to say, hey, here's the goal, here's what I want to do, and then actually do?
Yeah, I think it happened about 10 years ago because I've been in Canada for 6 years and I never imagined that I was going to leave the country. But I knew I had a bright future ahead of me. I just felt like I could achieve everything within Nigeria and maybe at some point just go for vacation. But I started thinking about it when I had my son 8 years ago. And it was just like, for the first time, I felt very responsible. And what I mean by that is, I felt like God has given me a human to take care of. It was a lot of responsibility, and I felt so committed. So I asked myself, what can I do to put this guy in a larger surface area of luck? Like
That's
to
important.
Yeah, that's important. So I spoke with my wife and we started thinking about it. The thing about dreams is this: the moment you start dreaming about something, somehow things start working towards it for you.
Yes.
So the moment we had that dream, we started seeing things about how to leave the country. News about leaving the country just started popping up. Ideas started popping up.
There's that saying about when you have a goal or dream like that, the universe conspires to make it happen or something. I don't know who the person who said that quote, but it's a famous quote that about the universe conspiring to make.
Yeah. So that was how we decided to leave. And in hindsight, I'm grateful I left. Now, talking about my son was the motivation, but I would say beyond that, I've enjoyed so much more than just saying because we had a baby. That was when I started thinking about leaving the country. The benefits that I've enjoyed is way more than I imagined. And I'm grateful to God that I made the decision.
So let's fast forward now to Canada. In those early days, when you initially just moved, what was that experience like? What are the first couple of weeks or first couple of months? And at what point did the actual life that you found yourself in, so how did it compare to what you expected or what you had imagined before you actually landed? And what were some of the major surprises around that time?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because moving to a new country, I would say I had this ambivalent feeling at some point. Like when we started the process, there was so much excitement, like, wow. But the moment I got all those papers, I started having cold feet. And I started asking myself, are you sure you're making the right decision? Because I remember when I told my MD where I was working that I would be leaving for Canada. My MD came from the US. I think he had spent 18 years before moving back to Nigeria. And he said to me, I hope you are making the right decision. In that moment, I felt like that was heavy because coming from someone who had spent almost 20 years in the US, probably must have seen it all. But I left anyway. But I had so many questions. I remember I couldn't fake a smile on the plane. I was really concerned about my job. People had told me different things about it could be hard to get a role. You may need to do anything just to survive. But I remember what my mom used to tell me. My mom she always told me, and she still tells me, you are a star, and no matter the thickness of the cloud, the star will always shine. And that it is when the cloud is even the thickest, that's when the star shines best. So I landed in Canada in March and I started sending out resume. I started reaching out to people. I used to work in sales, medical sales. I wanted to continue the same thing. But something happened that really changed my mindset. And I think that's one of my biggest lessons in Canada.
Yeah.
When we got into our apartment, I needed someone to help me with internet.
Yeah.
And the guy came to install internet. So as he was installing it, I just told him that I don't mind working for your organization. What does it take to work for your company? Oh, and the guy was like, oh, really? I could speak to my manager on your behalf. The manager reached out to me and he invited me for a chat. We had a chat. He was so impressed and he asked me, when do you want to start?
Oh, wow. Impressed.
And it was after he asked me, when do you want to start? He now said, I can't just hire you like this. top, use this link to apply for the role. I said, okay, is this how it works here? And that was how I got my first role. At that moment, I knew that apart from having a great mindset, it's also important to talk to people.
Oh, that's awesome. That's part of the motivation behind this show. The value of voice and us realizing the power it has. You don't have to be a politician like Barack Obama or Joe Rogan, a podcast on it. You never know, little like your job, whether it's promotion, whether it's getting a job in the first place, build a relationship with coworkers, potential collaborators. All of this requires you to be able to advocate for yourself and use your voice. And this is a very important thing that you just mentioned, that experience of getting a job through the cable guy or internet guy. People often reach out to me for a job or career advice. And sometimes people apply for it, especially for like my current employer. People would apply for a job and then come to me and say, oh, by the way, can we talk about this job? I'm like, that's not the right way to do it. You reach out first. You talk to the person, learn about a role, learn about how to best position yourself, and learn if it even makes sense for you. And sometimes it may not even make sense for you. And then, right. And also, a lot of big corporations, at least in the US, would have like employee referral programs. And
Right.
usually, if I refer you, I would have like a link and I'll send it to you, and then you can apply, and then it'd be under my referral. People would, but if you go already to the websites, apply, and then come to me and ask me for a referral, I mean, it doesn't work that way.
It's
You should have
already
asked me first. And even when I think about my first job out of college, my second job, most of my jobs were exactly how you just described it. Where I talked to somebody. My first job was through a professor or like an ex-colleague in my prior job. I almost did a whole interview process. At the end, they'd be like, "Oh, by the way, you need to go to this website and fill out the form." So filling out the form should not be the first thing that you do. That's just a formality. It doesn't mean anything. Talk to people first. Like, build this connection. Talk to people. Let them bounce you from like step one to step two to move you around to the next person, the next person, the next person. And then if everything's going well, somebody will tell you when you need to do that. Or at least before you do that, like make sure you talk to somebody and say, hey, this is the plan. And make sure they say, you know what, that makes sense. Go do it. Like sometimes it does make sense to like apply very early when a thing come out. Sometimes that happens. And at least someone would say, hey, guide you to say, hey, yeah, that's fine. Go do it. But there's always this anxiety that once a job role comes out, once people see anything, like the first thing to do is to go. So it's very cool that you had that mindset yourself in the beginning to use your voice to ask. The easy thing to do is just like go online, Indeed or whatever website, to Google Careers, whatever, and just like apply to 100 jobs. And most of the time, like a lot of those are like black holes that you apply, you just never hear back. You don't know somebody
Yeah.
ever saw the resume, somebody never did. But yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate that for our listeners, because that's a very important point in the career journey for immigrants who are new to this whole process. By applying the job, yes, it's cool to like click the button and apply, but that doesn't really like move the needle that much. Like what actually moved the needle to get you closer is talking to people like you did in your
Absolutely.
situation. So you talked to this guy, you talked to the manager, you said go fill out the form. So did you actually start that job?
Yeah, I got a job. I worked there for 8 to 9 months. Fantastic opportunity. I'm grateful for that role because it was a sales role and gave me the opportunity to interact with people, the culture of the Canadian culture. It's not like a culture that I was used to, but I really appreciate the fact that I had that opportunity early in my early days in Canada because I was selling cable, I was selling internet. And when it comes to sales, you don't care about people's color. You sell to anyone who is ready to buy. So I was knocking on doors, promoting my products. And that role really helps me. Grateful to God for it.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to start, because you did sales before you came to Canada, your friend. So you already have
Right.
some of those skills. You already knew how to talk to people, how to sell stuff to people. But just from a cultural standpoint, though, from like the food to the way people greet each other, the way people interact in the shopping places or like the mall or in church or in group, like would any shocks from a cultural standpoint, any cultural shock early on?
Yeah, there were so many shocks at work.
Yeah.
The way we relate with each other is different from the way we relate with each other back in Nigeria, especially when you are relating with your manager, superior, or your supervisor. My manager didn't like me calling him boss. I didn't understand why until he told me that don't call me boss, just call me by my first name. And the way they write emails here is so straightforward. Back in Nigeria, I used to write email by starting with maybe trust this email me to
That's a
all
formality.
those
No.
salutations. They don't do them here. When it comes to sales, the way they run their sales is a little bit different, not as aggressive as what I was used to, because you want to be careful so you don't spam people.
Yeah.
But back in my sales experience back in Nigeria, you keep knocking on the door. You just continue knocking. It's a game of persistence. But here you have to apply wisdom. If someone says, I'm not interested, don't knock my door anymore. You just have to respect that. So those were some shocks that I experienced. Canadians, they are nice.
We hear everyone like from the US perspective, that's like the whole, that's what you hear about Canadian
nice.
rights.
They open the door for you. Initially, I was going on, why do you have to open the door for me? Do you need help? Is it that you want me to give you something? But I now realize that is their culture.
And so we talked about your first job, and then earlier on you talked about the whole idea of the importance of having a dual income household. And how even in your journey now in Canada, you've also experienced job loss. I know you've even on like your LinkedIn, you've shared a lot of articles, or shared a lot of thoughts on the whole process of navigating job loss and losing a job and all of them. So can you, I guess, walk us through the different points so far that's happened to you and how you've been able to bounce back out of those?
Yeah, so and thank you for asking that, because you probably think I'm this very excited person. I'm always positive.
See, that was positive?
I'm always positive. There comes a time in life where you go through some challenges that will really test your faith and your positivity. And the reason why I'm saying it is when the layoff, I didn't see it coming.
What year did this happen?
That was during COVID.
Was this your same first job?
I had left. I had gotten another fantastic job. I was 3 months old.
This is sales as well?
The sales as well. Okay. But I was still pretty new.
Yeah, you haven't even like got your feet wet yet.
At all. Then COVID struck and so the entire set was let go. And that was the first time in my life that I would be let go at work. Then I started reflecting. Like the first question was this my fault? And the answer was no, it wasn't my fault. COVID happened. So I think at the point where I asked myself that question, I had more clarity to life. So when I realized that it wasn't my fault, I became more open and I got more excitement. Guy, it wasn't your fault. COVID happened. Then the next question I asked myself was, now that you are here, what do you want to do? And I thought about it and I was like, two things are likely to happen with this. It is either COVID consumes the whole world and we all go, or we find a solution and life continues. So if we find a solution, what's going to happen to me? And I think COVID has really accelerated growth.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Because people were adapting, life was still going on, just that some industries were shut down, but we were still trying to live and navigate that time. Yeah. And I saw that some roles will not be as relevant as they used to. I went online and did some analysis of my skill set. I went on Google, your company, and I asked Google to me, based on my strength, my skills, my knowledge, and my long-term goals, what I could do in the tech space. I wanted to come into tech. I knew tech had a lot of opportunities. I knew tech was the future. So during that time, I realized recommended project management and business analysis. Yeah. Before then, I started learning how to code on my own because I had all the time. Then I also decided to start dropping gems in some WhatsApp group because a lot of people started small businesses.
Is this WhatsApp group for people in Canada?
In Canada, yeah.
Okay.
So because of my sales experience, I was working with business owners. It was more like B2B sales over the years. So I knew how to advise business owners. So I was dropping gems in WhatsApp and somebody who were using some of those things I was sharing and they were getting results. So somebody randomly just said, Paul, are you planning to write a book? I said, oh, I actually had it in my mind, but it's not a goal for 2020. It's a goal for 2026. Because in my mind, I felt like by the time it's 2026, I would have learned so much that I would be able to put them in a book. So the lady was like, I think you already know a lot. Maybe you want to put it in a book. I said, okay, fine. So I started writing, compiling all those things I used to
This
share.
is in 2020? During the lockdowns?
During the lockdown, I was still out of job and I started writing. I completed the book during the lockdown. But I suffered some, I would say, imposter syndrome. I didn't know if I was ready to write a book. The name author was just so big for me to digest. So I wrote a book and I went back to school. I studied business analysis and process management. Everything was done online. I also mentioned I started learning how to code, but it was too much for me to understand. because I was teaching myself. I would go on YouTube, I would go on Udemy. But when Google mentioned that I could do business analysis, that was when I got to realize that, yeah, I don't need to code to be in.
You already mentioned your book, A Plus Entrepreneur. I was going to ask you a question about that later on. So what does that book cover? What's the message of the book? And what kind of people is the book meant for?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. So the book talks about personal development, talks about how to sell your product, how to market your product, and also talks about the kind of mindset you should have to win in business space. Then talked about the book will also teach you about your mental health, physical health, and spiritual wealth. In fact, the first chapter, I call it the health triangle. I talked about the importance of exercise, the importance of good sleep, and the importance of diet. So you are likely to be glued from page 1.
Awesome. And I guess I'm sure this is available on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Cool. All right. For listeners who want to check it out, the name of the book is called A Plus Entrepreneur. It talks about business principle as well as how to manage your physical, mental, and what else?
And spiritual.
And spiritual. Let's go to your podcast, the Thriving Immigrant Podcast. To start with, though, what is a thriving immigrant?
Good question. The immigrant, a typical immigrant, they go through different phases of challenges. And the first phase is the survivor phase. And there's nothing wrong with the survivor phase. You need to survive before you thrive. So to talk about a thriving immigrant, we need to first of all define who is a surviving immigrant. So a surviving immigrant is someone that is being reactive, someone that is just trying to get by. It's about paying bills, not able to identify what he really wants to do, but he needs to pay bills. He needs to take care of his own. He needs to take care of his family. Maybe he even needs to take care of people back home. However, at some point, you might need to leave that level and start thriving, because a typical immigrant has all it takes to thrive. It's just that sometimes we forget the kind of potential that we carry, because making it to this part of the world is not child's play. There's a level of ambition, there's a level of achievement, and there's a level of privileges that you've enjoyed for you to have made it this. But sometimes what keeps people from thriving is because they feel like the moment they land in this part of the world, they've achieved their wildest dreams and they stop dreaming. And it doesn't have to be like that. So who is a thriving immigrant? A thriving immigrant is someone who has survived the survivor phase, has discovered his passion, his purpose, and is ready to even live an impactful life. He's no longer reactive. He's now being proactive. He has discovered that he's a blessing to bless others.
I like this distinction. The underlying message here is the whole reactive versus to be proactive distinction. And also, I guess in the thriving part, but it sounds like you get to a point when you can actually make an impact in other people's life for me, beyond yourself, whether it's your family or your community. That really resonates with me because as I think about my own journey, as I mentioned, I've been in the States since 2007. I used to remember when I came early, there were people who I came here with who maybe just a few years into, school or college, because I came here as an undergrad, they have like cars, they have like a job, maybe not like a nice job, maybe like a hourly $12 an hour job, which, as a student, that's a lot of money. 12 hours per hour. But like they focus on those things. It's easy to get like just a side job, right? Like a fast food place or pizza place or whatever, and save some money. And it's easy to get stuff on credit, right? You can buy like a nice BMW on credit, or you get a house market. You can do all this different stuff, and it's easy to just come here. Oh, I made it, like all the different things. Like I want to get the nicest iPhone. And for me, those is I'm like, geez, like am I just a failure? Like all these people have all this like nice thing. They have like nice watches, nice cars, nice this, nice that, get a job. And I was grinding here, like taking different exams, whether it's a CPA exam, a CFA exam, one exam, or the GMAT, or whatever it is. But we do realize that there's a cap to that. So like if you go that route, you stop investing in yourself and just like wanting to maximize what's available to you and needed. There's a quick cap to it. You realize like, yes, I have the job, I get $12 an hour. Maybe you can get promoted and make $15 an hour, but that's it. That's your max. You've just capped out. But some other people who they take the slower road, they may not make it as quickly as you or have the fancy things. But then eventually all of the stuff, the long run, all of the stuff then pays off. And now they have a very, very, very high ceiling. So what you mentioned is something that I have just thought about a lot. So in your podcasts, I guess just your experience in Canada, talking to other immigrants. So what are some examples of the mindsets, what's worked for people, whether invest in yourself, making sure you go as far as you can. If it's a master's degree or in your case, like learning something new, what are some of those things that he could do to help you move away from just surviving to now thriving?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I speak to a lot of people, and I will tell you, let me just mention three. The first one is adaptability, and that is key because when you come to this part of the world, you want to, like I mentioned, everybody goes through that survival phase. What differs is just the length. Some people do 1 year and they're thriving. Some people 3 years, some people 5 years, some people 10 years, some people never thrive. Some people just survive all their life. So adaptability is key. You want to understand that you're now in a new environment and you don't want to be on the side of people complaining that, for example, one of the biggest things people talk about in Canada is our winter can be a little bit harsh and people try to complain about it. There was a time I put up a post on LinkedIn talking about, has anyone even paid attention to how water runs out of your faucet when the weather is minus 22 degrees C? It's not normal. So when you come to a new country, you want to understand that you have to be adaptable. You have to find yourself on the side of positivity. You got to be grateful for everything. Just finding yourself among people that complain every time. Adaptability is key. You've left your own country. In Nigeria, there's no winter. Every day is sunshine.
And rain sometimes. The rain
Yeah, it
is
rains
for me
sometimes,
very
but
heavy.
you don't see that snow. You don't see that winter. So there's no point to say that, oh, I wish we had the Nigerian weather. No, you've left Nigeria. So you have to be adaptable. So people that I've seen that do well, they are very adaptable. Secondly, they are for humanity. And that may sound cliche, but one thing I've seen is when you love people, it's easy for you to identify problems. And out of that genuine love, you probably want to solve it. And the thing about life is everybody who solves problem, whether they want it or not, they attract value to themselves. And that way, money flows through you, cash flow comes to you. And you are not just, it's not like you're doing it because you probably want the money, but you just realize that because of that genuine love, you are solving problems. And every time you are able to solve a problem, provided you are able to identify the problem you are solving, and with the skills that you've gotten from maybe Nigeria and all the things you've learned, so you'll be able to add a price to it, and people will pay. So, genuine love for humanity. And the other one is being curious, asking questions. Right. Curiosity really helps. You're just asking questions, trying to network, what's going on here. Because in this part of the world, I don't know about the US, there are a lot of opportunities that people don't even have an idea of. Because if you don't ask, you won't get to know it. Back in Nigeria, we live in a kind of place where you meet people every time. You take a walk. You can take a 100-meter walk. If it's in a city in Lagos, you can meet thousands of people. But this place, you can even take 100-meter walk and you meet maybe 5 or 6 people. So you have to be curious. You have to be able to ask questions. People who do that, they do well. But I think the most important thing is the mindset and not finding yourself in the circle of people who complain. You need negative energy. A lot of good things are happening in the world. As we sit right here, a lot of good things are happening, a lot of bad things are happening. But if you focus so much on the bad things, you will be attracting more bad things to yourself.
There's an Afrobeat song like bad energy, go far away, go far.
Yeah, that's it.
So just to recap, for the Thriving Immigrant, 3 key things that you highlighted. The first is the adaptability.
Right.
And then the second one was, as you mentioned, genuine love for immigrants, essentially. Taking interest in people around you and trying to solve their problem. Hopefully you can get some value back from the solutions that you're offering to other people. And this last one, curiosity, asking questions. I want to talk about this last one, curiosity. So initially, at least in my experience, when you come here at first, like everything is just brand new. Like you just, there are 2 ways, I guess, you can approach this whole like fight or flight approach to like stressors. Like when stressful events happen in your life, flight is to just hide yourself. There's too much going on. I don't understand it. Sometimes I'm just like take myself out of a situation. And there's the other one like, okay, I don't understand it, so maybe I should lean in forward even more so I can learn it. And I mean, today I've sort of moved from one column to the other one, but I was in the flight column before. When it came, again, I was young, I was 17. But that's an excuse. But at the time, I was one of those people where if I don't understand something, if I'm in an environment, I don't feel like I know what's going on, my first reaction is not to be curious or not to like put myself out there. My first reaction is just like, ooh, all right, let's just like step away. Let's just step back. Let's just hide. Let's just stay in this corner. Let me make sure I understand first until I feel like I fully understand what's going on, and then I can come out and then like contribute. I feel like in classroom where it could be something that I'm familiar with, but I wasn't as confident in terms of like how to like express it, like how to contribute in class. And then it followed me to even in our corporate life, my first job, where even like calling people, talking to people, going to lunch. Because in corporate America, in corporate type job situation, like you have to like go eat lunch, you have to go to dinner, you have to do happy hour, you have to do those like social stuff that are part of building your currency, getting to know people and all this stuff. And I was very reluctant to do those type of things. But eventually, as I said, I progressed over time. I guess it's also okay if you're not the person who just jumped into it the first time you're in a new situation. That's also fine. So my message is, but you don't have to be stuck there forever. That's the flavor. You get there and you have how much time you need. So some people can jump right in a couple of months. Some people maybe years or however long. But I think the key message here is that you don't have to stay there. And I like the curiosity thing because if I was to look back to my own experience, like it's making those mistakes. Sometimes when you ask the wrong, because part of the fear of asking questions, I don't want to ask the wrong question. What if this question make me seem dumb? And now, like in class, for example, the classroom example is like, if I ask this question now with my accent, people now realize this person, like, yeah, where are you from?
Exactly. Because the question I ask myself is, if you found yourself in this situation in your home country, you react to it.
Yeah.
It's just the fear of being judged.
Exactly, you nailed it.
You don't want people to see you like, oh, this is
different. Yeah.
And his fears are valid, and it takes a level of vulnerability to start showing up and just understanding that you don't have to stay there for too long. Being vulnerable. And one of the ways that I think one of the things that have helped me is I strongly believe that the biggest fear of everyone is death.
Yeah.
And no matter how rich or how influential you are, you just know that when that happens, end. Now, you want to understand that this can happen anytime, and you want to live full life. You want to live fully. Don't be scared about being judged. People don't even have your time like that.
That's the most important realization. It's once you realize people don't think of you as much as you think they think of you. That's it. Like, once you realize that, I'm like, oh my God, there's no need for me to be like holding back myself, thinking if I do a presentation, like I go to a room, I'm supposed to present to some like higher level people and then I make a mistake. Like they're going to remember that tomorrow and day after. They'll be honest, they don't remember. They don't remember. Like they have better things to think about. You think you're the one who did. You think you're like, of all the things on your plate, like you're the most important thing. You're not. No matter how funny you think you are, you're not the most important. Everybody has, and to be honest, everyone thinks about themselves first. Like for me now, you think about your kids. You think about, you have your own personal problem.
Yeah.
But even if you do something wrong, I think the best situation would be the person to give you feedback, and then you learn from that feedback, and then you move on. Personally, it's my life has changed so drastically since I moved over to this like framework where if I make a mistake, I just, all right, I made a mistake. Next time I won't make a mistake again. That's it. That's the last time I think about that thing. I don't think about that again. Your life is so much better. Before we wrap up here, just a couple of things. You're my first guest from Canada. Obviously, I'm sure you're hearing the news, all the stuff going on stateside, from the ICE raids and all this different stuff going on. I'm just curious, in your 6 years in Canada so far, like, have you noticed any change over time in the current context, especially, or attitudes towards immigrants?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm in the right position to talk about that because I think I've survived that survival phase of immigrant. Like, I think the biggest struggle most immigrants go through is getting a job. Like, maybe my accent will not make me to be employable. But I understand that things have changed, truly. I don't know how welcoming people are to immigrants, but back in 2019, 2020, Canada has been an immigrant-friendly country for a very long time. But the economy too is not looking so great. When the economy is bad, people discover some unknown negative side of themselves. And it's not just about the general economy. For example, if you as a man, you lose your job, you don't know where your next income is coming from, there's an agitation that comes with it, and you may misbehave. So I don't want to say that they are not as welcoming as they used to be, because the times have changed. Things are tougher, less tougher. That would have been a better way to do the analysis.
At the end of the day, right, people care about themselves. People care about having food on the table. People care about their own shelter. People care about their kids. So and that's what you're focused on first, before maybe an immigrant in your neighborhood or wherever.
Exactly.
Like, that's your second priority. Your first priority is like, get the healthcare I need? Can I send my kids to good school? So I think part of the story here across America and across all these countries, I definitely agree that the economic backdrop or economic situation does play a big role in that.
Yeah.
So my final question, what's the best advice you've ever received?
I would say is to live every day like your first and your last. And the reason why that is important is because if you are living every day like your first, you are going to be very open-minded. You are going to be very excited. You are going to be very curious. Imagine the first day you landed in the US, you'll be like, wow. You want to live every day like that because you want to start your day with so much gratitude and open-mindedness. Then you also want to live it like your last because you don't know when that will happen, so that you can take action on things that you need to take action on. So you can have some sense of urgency. If someone told you that today was your last day, you would know what to prioritize. You would know that you need to be kind. You will know how to speak the right words to people. You will know things that you should spend your energy on. So live every day like your first and your last. Yeah, and on a final note, for someone listening right now that you know that you've got what it takes to shine, but for some reasons, because you feel like your skin color is not the accepted
right
one.
one.
Of course, you can tell from my accent that I'm not a Canadian and I'm not an American. And that feeling of imposter syndrome, almost everyone goes through it. But this is what I want you to understand. That imposter syndrome is a good feeling in the sense that an indication that you have some hidden potential that you can maximize. Because if you really look at it, imposter syndrome is saying that you just have this feeling in your head of inadequacy despite some recorded achievement. Because, so let's use a scenario, for example. You don't know how to fly a plane, right?
Nope, I do not.
If someone asks you to fly a plane right now, what would you do?
I would say, can we find someone who is more qualified to do
To
so?
do it? But that's not imposter syndrome. That's just telling you that you don't know how to do this and you can't do it. But imposter syndrome is maybe you've been running 10 kilometers every day, and someone says, let's run 15 kilometers. You're like, can I do it? But you've done something before, so you can do that. So if anyone is listening to me right now and feeling, I don't think I can do this, like we said earlier in this conversation, don't overthink it. Just start and learn from it, and you'll be fine.
That's a great place to end. Don't overthink, just start. Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And for people who are listening, thanks as always for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen. That's it for today. And until next time, stay unmuted.